Welcome back to Tuxes and Tomahawks. My name is Adam Derudo. I am a paratrooper, a farmer, and an oil and gas worker here in the United States. And I've been putting a lot of effort into this week just to interviewing any candidate from any party across the spectrum here in Colorado before the primary to let all the unafflicted voters know who these people are versus getting all these crappy mailers in your mailbox and having all these echo chambers here on Facebook forum groups, which apparently, as of yesterday, I've been banned from for sharing podcasts. So, Lori Saine, you are running for County Commissioner at Large here in Weld County. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
So, Lori, I'm not going to lie. I have absolutely no idea who you are. I've never met you before. I've never talked to you. And you were just a candidate that I saw that was running for a pretty important office that affects me directly as a constituent here in Weld County. So, why don't you tell me who you are, what your history is in Colorado, where you come from, and what you're even trying to do here?
Okay, well, I appreciate that. Well, so my name's Lori Saine, and I actually served as your state representative for 8 years. And, during that time, I honored my pledge to be your voice at the state capitol. I earned 100% from the Colorado Union of Taxpayers, A+ from Principles of Liberty, A from the Republican Liberty Caucus, and so forth and so forth. So that basically that means is I'm there to vote for you. And that's very tough because the other side of the aisle, which includes Republicans, they're voting for somebody else other than you. They're voting for special interests. So they make your life as hard as possible during the times you're trying to serve, trying to make sure you don't get things done that are positive for the people. But when you vote for principles like limited government, fiscal responsibility, free markets, individual responsibility, and equal treatment under the law, these are things that we are supposed to stand for. So when you get 100% of those scorecards, that means you actually stand for the average citizen, not for big crony corporatists, because that's really not capitalism. When you're sucking on the government to earn your living and to crush your competitors. So, that's a situation that we've increasingly have here in Colorado, is that we have the good old boys club, and they want to keep power, and they will do it by any means necessary. And often how they do that, and you've seen this personally, is they try to silence you and they try to personally destroy you. So if you haven't done anything wrong, they will just make it up. And so that's the situation I find myself in. And, some of these mailers that are out there, they're literally quoting Boulder, liberal, yellow journalism, anti-oil and gas magazines, where they literally printed a rumor, which I didn't even coordinate those departments. So, they've literally just made it up, and then they repeat it on their mailers, just like a Democrat does. So they're not much different than a Democrat. And what we have here is really what people are starting to realize is a uniparty. So I don't know if you said unaffiliated earlier, or you said unafflicted, but unfortunately we're all afflicted by this disease, which is, we're just moving steadily to the left, because if you have a party that only responds to millionaires who spend all this money on these mailers, you're not going to be representing the people. And unfortunately, the human condition usually moves towards money or power or both. And again, if you're voting for special interests, you're not going to be responsive to the people. And that's what we see in Weld County right now, is we don't have folks voting for the people or standing on principles. So we have a very Washington, D.C.-like swamp going on in Weld County, where we've had, my opponent advocated to raise taxes. We just had a 40% increase in some areas and a 30% increase overall. That was a windfall to government last year.
Yeah, actually, my property taxes went up like $600 last year, and I got pretty pissed off about that. I'm like, wait a minute. The reason I moved out here was because I didn't want to live in Adams County anymore, right. and that was back in 2017 when I moved up here. I built my own house out here. So, and you're right, Lori. This is, like I said, I have worked in federal politics for over 14 years. I mostly do military veteran legislation, like things that matter, on a bigger side. And when people started asking me to get involved in local politics, I got accused immediately from people I have no idea who these people are, that I work for George Soros. So I'm like, I am a dude who lives on County Road 49 in the middle of nowhere with a podcast and a 2006 Dodge Ram 2500 pickup truck. What are you talking about? It blew my mind. I was just like, I have no idea who these people are. And my only interactions with your opponent, who, from personal interactions, it's been very minimal, but was her husband. her ex-husband was somebody who constantly fought against military reform legislation against sexual assault, harassment, and retaliation. And I sat there and went, wait a minute. Okay, so you're okay with general officers retaliating against women who have been raped by other service members, and you're going to do nothing about it. That just blew my mind. And that's been for over a decade for stuff we've been doing. So when I started getting involved in federal politics, I started hearing all these names and who's doing who and who's sending what mailers. I'm like, I mean, Lori, so far the only crime you've committed, in my opinion, is choosing a background for your virtual background that looks like my neighbors from New Jersey in the 1980s. You know what I mean? Like, other than that, I'm like, I don't even know who Lori Saine is. I mean, seriously, the first time I knew who Lori Saine was when I sat down in that county commissioners meeting last week, when I watched you guys just talking about immigration issues or local property issues or DCP Energy asking for another right of way. I'm like, yeah, they come to my house and do that shit all the time. So when I got personally attacked yesterday for just interviewing a constituent running for political office, when my job is to help you, people like you, just talk to the voters who don't listen to the mailers. I mean, to be fair, most of the mailers I get, I throw them in my burn barrel and burn all my cardboard boxes from Amazon. I don't even read them. You know, that's what I do with them. So what blows my mind is I've been attacked by so-called Republicans in this state who control all these Facebook forums, these groups. And I have been actively participating in my local government, getting to know candidates. I don't care what side you are on. I've even met with Tricia Calvary's because I'm in a union at the refinery. And I met with the Democratic unions. And I've met with people on the other side because I want to get to know all the candidates and all their issues. And I think that's what we're supposed to do as Americans is get to know who we're voting for, not just listen to mailers and slander. And when Jim Eckersley intentionally censored me on an open forum when I've supported his local politics for breakfast meetings for weeks with my Uncle Gary, I sat there and just went, wait a minute, hold on a second. Like, what is going on here? So why don't you give me a little bit of background on this? Because even personally, as an oil and gas guy, I work 18-hour days on the drilling rigs out here for years. I did not have time to go to Weld County Commissioner meetings and even understand how this even happened. Why are politics so bad out here in Weld County with the establishment global GOP and the new America First Trump supporting candidates who actually want to put America First values first? Can you explain that to me? Because, like I said, I'm lost in that dynamic.
Well, it's a long story, but it's safe to say that the establishment here in Weld County is not America First. They're their own personal power first, and you can see this. Even early in the year, I introduced a non-sanctuary resolution that included the terms: "We will not misuse any county taxpayer money misuse it on illegal immigrants." And in response to that, not only did they not support it, but my opponent even took away your First Amendment right to petition your government with grievances. They took away public comment because they were so offended that people wanted this resolution passed. And so it's been interesting. I've introduced various resolutions and pushed through various issues, including even full funding for the sheriff, which my opponent did not support or actively voted against it. And even then, we have to go and fund the sheriff again today because, again, an amendment was passed that wasn't the full funding the sheriff asked for. So, it's constant this shutting down. They voted on rules to shut me down, that I can't testify on anti-oil and gas bills. I can't testify on anti-gun
Wait, seriously?
bills. I'm being serious here, and I've actually got the entire recording from this too. We had some citizens show up and actually take video of this.
Because that actually affects me, because I work on anti-oil and gas stuff here in the state too. And if you are a Weld County Commissioner, never mind.
Yes.
Which is, I work at the refiner. 80% of our oil that we refine in the state comes from Weld County.
Yes.
80% of it. Right?
The bill I testified on would have killed the oil and gas industry, completely wiped it out. I was there till almost midnight, and that bill was killed a couple minutes after my testimony. So, every voice makes a difference, even a lowly county commissioner, but they want to strip me of that ability and get their permission before I can speak on these bills. I represent you. I represent District 3 now. And so I'm going to represent you at the state capitol to testify against these bills. And as a former state legislator, I know decorum on how to testify in these bills. So, it's incredible that they're just trying to shut me down. They mentioned that well, we don't know what your penalties are yet. We'll make that up as we go along. This is literally on an audio that I have where the county attorney says, well, we don't know all the penalties. We'll just see what happens. So, I mean, if they don't like what you're doing, they will take you off committees, right? And to give your opponent advantage for no reason other than you're successful and you're doing the right thing. Apparently, doing the right thing makes them look bad because I'm doing work and perhaps they are not doing work is the most I've gathered at this point.
Well, I guess I personally would know a little something about that. I have been, for the last 14 years, I fought the Air Force Academy for rape and sexual assault and harassment on the big scale down in the Springs. And all they do is go after my character. And I'm like, you can background check me. I got nothing on there. All the things the Air Force says about me are wrong. I can prove it because I have a security clearance and I work in intelligence in the military, you idiots. So I guess I understand how you feel about the personal attacks and being all in the news about this stuff, because the same things happen to me on a much different scale. So Lori, why do all these people hate you so much? I don't understand it. Like, it doesn't make any. Why does everybody hate you? Why does everybody call Lori insane? Like, let's just get it out there. What we need to talk to the independent voters. We need to bring these people in, and most of the people who are becoming independents are leaving the former conservative Republican Party because they don't represent their actual values anymore. And I can actually see why. After talking to people for the last 3 weeks and getting banned on my own conservative forums, I'm seeing, which is wild to me. Like, it's nuts. Why is everybody saying these things about you? What are you doing differently that other so-called establishment Republicans aren't?
Well, standing on principle, the principles I mentioned earlier, which there's 7 planks in our party, right? The equal treatment of the law is a big one that seems to not apply in Weld County. But if you operate on those 7 principles that we supposedly say as our brand we believe in, then that is the version of the golden rule, treating somebody like you would treat yourself. That's being a true public servant where you're there to actually represent the people. But anytime you represent the people, you're going to gore somebody's ox that's being enriched off of government or hopes to be. So that's why you see all these big developers backing my opponent, now the state interests. These are all out of county interests. And why are people from Washington, D.C. backing my opponent? Well, there's probably something to that, being the county that has the most oil and gas and the most agriculture. We're a very rich county. So obviously, those people aren't giving hundreds of $1,000s to a lowly county commissioner. I mean, we're really not that important, to be honest with you, other than we can raise your taxes or lower your taxes. But they expect something in return. And
you're correct on that. That I agree with. On the DC side, I agree with that 100%.
It's the same in local politics as well, especially when you have a county like this. Think about this. We had no debt and no sales tax. And that's because we actually had a conservative person running our budget. That person retired a couple of years ago, probably saw the writing on the wall. As soon as he left, staff, they say staff is policy, but money is also policy. And all of a sudden, you start seeing the fiscal policy just start going the opposite direction. And they were even talking about maybe even getting a debt the other day. So I mean, we have a 180 attitude towards serving the people and being really conservative with our fiscal policy and not growing government. So that attitude is changing. And when you can give handouts to your friends, obviously, you're going to make some new friends. They may be temporary, but that doesn't serve the people. I mean, back to the example, we just had our property taxes go up. I mean, across the board, it was at least by 30%. People are hurting. Yes. Elderly are hurting. They're hanging on by their fingernails. They can't be taxed anymore. And yet, your property taxes are going up yet again. And I'm willing to bet as soon as this primary is over, they're going to try to increase the taxes yet again. They stopped that in January. It was incredible. They just want to grow and grow government because that grows and grows their power. So it's really very similar to Washington, D.C. I don't know why Washington, D.C. connections are necessarily entered this race for a county commissioner, but that's indeed.
I can give you an answer to that. I can give you an answer to that, Lori. Yeah. So yeah, and talking about that so this is kind of funny. This is how out of touch I have been with local politics until this year, because I literally did not care until like a couple weeks ago. You are my actual representative as a county commissioner. I am in District 3, right? Highway 49, which is the oil field highway of Colorado, right?
Yes.
And I live smack dab in the middle of it, mile marker 10. I got a giant 25-foot American flag pole out front. If anyone wants to know where I live, come find me. The county sheriff stop by all the time when they see me out here. But this is what's actually wild to me, and I don't think most people know. So I do work in military intelligence and psychological operations. This is what I do. And Weld County, I forget the exact stats off the top of my head, but we are in the top 3 of richest counties in the United States. We are classified by the Department of Homeland Security as a strategic national asset in terms of oil and gas production, water supply to Denver, and also agricultural beef and food supply. Weld County is critically important to the military and the U.S. government in terms of protection, in terms of what this area provides for our national defense and for our national resources. So that is why Washington, D.C. is so invested in Weld County up north, because this is a not necessarily political stronghold they care about, but in terms of if shit goes bad, this is why NORAD is in the Springs, okay? It was designed to take on a 50-ton nuclear warhead from the Russians, right? We have 4 major military bases here in Colorado, and Weld County's on the outskirts of that. Like, you could sustain the United States within Colorado if, like, all the government officials had to come out here, if the Chinese invaded us. From a tactical perspective, we could refine our own fuel and fight back and take back the Chinese or the Koreans or whatever Red Dawn scenario you want to give out here with Charlie Sheen. That is why Weld County is so important. So it does not surprise me that millions of dollars from Washington, D.C. dump into select races, because everyone thinks that the presidential election matters in Colorado. It doesn't, because it's been thrown to the Democrats from densely populated areas like Boulder and Denver. But what is extremely important, as I have come to really understand the last year or two, is these local races, county commissioner, even your school board. Who's teaching our kids? What is going to affect the next generation of great Americans out here? I mean, who's going to replace us oil and gas workers when we get broke, when these kids don't even know how to function off an iPad, but are being taught that it's okay to generally mutilate themselves here in Greeley? Like, it absolutely is insane to me. So I will tell you that the reason why there's so much money coming into this county, into certain specific races, is because they're trying to outweigh the influence of what Weld County residents need most, and that's agriculture, water rights, and oil and gas resources. That's what it comes down to. That's why we fight foreign wars. It's for resources. It's not for freedom. We just want to take your shit.
Well, I would tell you, it's part of the advantage. I mean, a lot of the bills I did were very practical in the state legislature, one of which is a bill that actually allowed Weld County, or the Highway 49, to be built. It was actually actively opposed by mayors and other counties, because they were afraid that, if we built a highway with cash, and they would be forced to do the same. So I had to really bully that through the legislature, or 49 would not have gotten built. But as far as some of these other issues, like for example, something that we can do as elected leaders is to speak out and say, hey, federal government, this is unconstitutional, like this lawfare that's being conducted by the EPA right now against our farmers and ranchers. You just mentioned we feed Colorado and everybody can move here. Well, they're actually trying to take away water rights right now.
It's a big deal.
Against the 9th and 10th Amendment. My opponent did not support this. In fact, she shut down one of the ranchers that was speaking for the rest of the farmers and ranchers. So, I mean,
that's interesting. I didn't know that.
There's that I think that resolution was the next day when you were there, but that's important for us to say, is like, hey, that's unconstitutional. We will not enforce your illegal unconstitutional actions. And those farmers could have taken that to court and say, hey, Weld County said this is unconstitutional, and we can at least from a bully pulpit say that, and say we will not help you with this lawfare or this trespassing on private land. I mean, what the federal government's trying to do is people to squeeze them, to make them exhausted and give up and take over the land. That should frighten everyone. All these farms you like living around, these are small farmers and ranchers. If they can't survive, this growth that you don't want. Agriculture uses 80% of the water on the eastern part of the slope, right? Yep. And 20% is municipalities. And if they sell their water rights or have to leave, it is much more money per acre to put a house farm on there than an actual farm.
Yes.
So this is the future we're looking at. Is we will destroy the agricultural industry if we don't step up and protect our farmers and ranchers. The same with oil and gas. Not allowing me to speak on an oil and gas bill that would have killed oil and gas. I mean, give me a break. I mean, this is stuff where
if I was there, I would have. If I was there, I would have stood up and thrown a book for you. Like, you can't do that.
I know. Well, I know it's unconstitutional, and they know it too. But they're trying to slow me down, shut me up, so they can give my opponent an advantage. Because when I speak, you can tell that I have experience. I'm actually working on the ground for people. When my opponent speaks, there's really nothing there because she's not doing anything. There's nothing that we can point to where she's actually accomplished something as a county commissioner. Because if you go along to get along, that's what you do. You're just going to go along with whoever is leading the pack. And right now, unfortunately, that's a person who wants to raise your taxes, who wants to grow government. These are not things we need right now. This is not the leadership we need. And in fact, the more our taxes raised, the less people might even say, we're not even going to vote because we're just disgusted with the leadership in Weld County. And that leaves us vulnerable to Democrats coming in and actually maybe winning some of these races. So we have a long-term lack of vision here. We're not serving people, and we're shutting down farmers and ranchers. We're not protecting private property rights for the average citizen living in rural Weld County, putting them under another bureaucracy and allowing towns and cities 3 miles out to maybe say, well, we don't like the size of your barn. We're going to make you do our design standards instead. I mean, things like this, people need to wake up because this kind of command and control is not going to leave us red for very long. People are going to leave. They're going to be an Atlas shrug, and they're going to say, and they've already done it. Some of these business owners I've talked to, one lady actually was told, well, we don't have a permit for you. You need to go to the nearest town, which was 3 miles away, by the way. They wouldn't have her, and they said, we're going to sick the DA on you if you don't get your trucks off this property. Guess who she hauled for? Guess who she hauled for? The two industries that make Weld County run: agriculture and oil and gas. And so if she had to get rid of her trucking business, our products that we buy from the supermarket would have gone up, right? Yeah, she would have had to move her business to Wyoming because there's no other suitable place. And she's been operating since 2013. She should have been grandfathered in. But I mean, this is the harassment some of these business owners are facing. And when I call back, some of them said, I've given up. It's just too hard. I'm moving out of state. I've sold my property, on and on and on. So when you punish people who are productive, what you're going to be left with are people who will not have the same values. So, we're in an existential crisis that people aren't realizing what's going on. But when you vote and you flip-flop like my opponent has on guns, like I pushed through a concealed carry, we had the employees had to ask permission from their bosses to conceal carry in a Second Amendment sanctuary county. There was a flip-flop on that, on the non-sanctuary, on the First Amendment, on taxes. I mean, on and on and on. It's just when you vote for a new taxing district, I was a 4-1 vote, by the way, and Boulder County votes it down and joins me in defeating a new taxing district. What does that tell you? I mean, seriously.
Okay, so this is wild. So I want to note a few things I've listened to. Like I said, this is the first time I've personally actually talked to you. So I'm allowed to judge you as much as I want as your actual constituent. This is fun. This is like, whose line is it anyway, which you carry. But one, I'm a water guy now. So I worked at upstream for the last 12 years. I work at the refinery now. I work in water purification. I'm a water industrial specialist. And I will tell you, water is one of the most, if not most critical issues in the state of Colorado right now. Water is worth more than the oil underneath the ground in certain areas right now. And I live right by Art Gutterson and Steve Wells and all the big guys out here. And I will tell you, it's something that we get concerned about when our fields dry out. We can't plant every year, and I hobby farm, I farm, I feed myself. I think it's kind of fun. I feed my neighbors and everything else. But it's definitely an issue, right? It's something that we are concerned about every single day. And I will even say the refinery provides 2 million gallons of water a day of fresh water to the Denver drinking water system. So, plot twist, Weld County oil and gas production water recycling actually provides 2 million gallons of water a day into their own drinking water system. And even from fracking, by the way. Funny. That's right, Denver, you drink recycled frack water, and it's cleaner than your sewer water because of people like me who know what they're doing and we're good at chemistry. But one thing I want to say, I admire you as a candidate is compared to other candidates I've talked to in the background from, I would say, the establishment GOP, is all I hear from them is names and personal attacks. Right? When, oh, Adam, you need to know about this person, or Lori insane, or whatever. I sit there, I nod my head, I listen to what they're saying, whatever else. Not once during this entire podcast have you said something negative about your opponent without even mentioning their name, which I think is really admirable for you. But you're not even contesting them as a person, as like personal issues with them. What you're stating is this is the factual things that are going on in government right now. These are the things I voted for. These are the things they haven't voted for. Like, you're not even going after them. Like, you can name them Barney the dinosaur, and if Barney the dinosaur was still voting against it, you'd still be saying that these are the facts and the issues. And I want to say, as your constituent personally, I actually find that really admirable that you're using facts to back up your arguments, and you're just trying to bring back common sense government with America First principles, which is what Donald Trump demands from everyone up to the local level. And I have not seen any candidate in any other race other than, like, Trent, but he's running in Colorado House District 65. He's not even in my district, and I admire the fact that he doesn't do those things either. Right. So good on you for actually being an open and honest person about this process of what it takes to be a Weld County Commissioner in one of the most powerful counties in the United States. I think that's pretty admirable for you to come out and say those things.
Oh, thank you so much. And it really is about leadership, right? We need bold leadership right now. We don't need wishy-washy, go along and get along. And really, the votes tell the story, right? Votes tell the story. Politicians can say whatever they want during the primary. I'm pro-life. I'm pro-gun. I'm for limited government, less taxes. They can say all those things, but it's how they
same
vote.
things over and over again, though.
They take that action on your behalf. And so, when, again, Trent Lacey is a great example of somebody who voted to lower your taxes. We've got basically a form of Tabor in Weld County under our Weld charter. So when those taxes went up 30% per our charter, we had to give it back to you, the taxpayer. Well, the commissioners actually beseeched a county council to keep it. And it was for a $78 million ag building, which, would you know what a $78 million ag building looks like? It would be like gold saddles, right?
Oh, yeah.
Especially in the place that they were going to try to build it, which was an EPA flood zone. So good luck with that. And then admitted, well, we may or may not build this building. They just want your taxpayer money anyway. That's not responsible government. And, my opponent was not there to advocate with me to give back taxpayer money, especially when we found out those monies would be fungible and not used for a shall. And law, that means you will do it. You shall build this building in this location. But Trent was actually one of the ones who voted to give you your money back, which is why your taxes weren't as high as they would have been. That's why you saw a larger negative on your property tax notice. So I was the only commissioner fighting for that. And meanwhile, my opponent, you can hear on my website, advocated to increase the size of government by increasing your taxes, not giving back your full refund as per our charter. So there's a clear difference here. If you want more taxes and more government, obviously I'm not your gal. If you want sane government, then yes, I would be your representative. If you like fiscal responsibility, limited government, and government that actually responds to you and treats you equally under the law, not just responding to millionaires who throw out mailers that quite frankly lie.
And they're all useless, though. It's really bad psyops. Like, I wouldn't even make those mailers throwing them at kids in sandals in Syria. I mean, even they would figure out that they're lying. And those kids are actually pretty smart. When I'm trying to manipulate a population to doing what I want because I just want to kill people and break things in the military, the mailers that they send out here in Colorado are just so obviously made up. You know what I mean? Like, I look at this and go, what the hell is this? Like, it's like an episode of The Simpsons or something. And, yeah, it's wild to me. And like I said, personally, my taxes went up $800 on my property this last year. It's like, wait a minute, what's going on here? It blows my mind that I live in the most resource-rich area. It's supposed to be an actual Republican stronghold. And, man, the amount of people I see who are never Trumpers up here now, or I support Donald Trump, but I only support a few things on him because I want all these liberal policies now. It's even concerning because They're running out of space to build north of the airport. Brighton is packed. It's full of crime. It's full of fentanyl. One of the reasons I left Brighton in Adams County is because my work trucks are getting broken into all the time, and and I moved up here, right? So actually, one of the funny thing is, I don't know if you know one of the county. I think his name is Tedesco down in Adams County, one of the commissioners down there. But the only time I ever went viral on the internet in 2017 was I went to the Adams County Board of Commissioners meeting when they were doing an oil and gas drilling moratorium. And the companies I used to work for here in Weld County and Adams County no longer exist. Schlumberger, Baker Hughes, Noble Energy, they're gone. They're gone. They no longer operate here in the state, right? And they were only letting people who were pro-banning oil and gas speak. So I signed up as an engineer, oil and gas engineer, who is pro-banning drilling, and they're like, oh, we got to get this guy up here to speak in front of the county commissioners. I'm like, that was their first mistake thing, because you don't know what I do in the background, right? So I get up there, and like, I'm an oil and gas engineer, and I support the drilling ban, and everyone in the coveralls is like, what the fuck are you doing, Dorito? They're all standing up and start throwing stuff. I'm like, oh, wait, guys, sit down, wait for this. I'm like, because what I want you to do is I want you to ban drilling so that your property taxes skyrocket, that you're going to have to build more houses and raise property taxes, that you're going to lose all the money I give you from my companies and hotel rentals and restaurants and everything else that we spend our money on here. And we're going to close shop and go down to Texas, which is exactly what we did. We moved our operation down to Texas while we were waiting this out. And you're going to lose so much money and raise your taxes so high that eventually people are going to vote you out of office. Shit you not, Lori. That's exactly what happened. When I was at that union meeting, I met with some of the Adams County commissioners, and they're out of money. They used to get all this money from oil and gas from for their revenue, and now they don't even have enough money to operate plug and abandon operations in the state. And now they had to sign some deal with Governor Polis where they equally distribute all their oil and gas tax revenue around the state versus keeping it in the counties where it needs to operate. And I'm seeing the same thing happen with Weld County too. I used to see drilling rigs across the skyline every morning. It was a beautiful sight. And now I don't see any of them. I don't see any more. All the people I used to work with don't work here anymore. They don't work in oil and gas. And to me, it sounds like you're the only person fighting to keep our way of life of farming, agriculture, and oil and gas out here to keep Weld County free. I mean, you might as well just start putting up to go back to be a county to Wyoming at this point again, when that vote came through a couple years ago, right? It's just, it doesn't make any sense to me. And I just really want to appreciate getting to know you today and then understanding that you're actually the one fighting for the right reasons out here in Weld County. And I just, I admire that.
Well, thank you so much. And that's why I serve too. I don't serve for myself. Nobody would take this abuse for, what we actually get as the county commissioner. I mean, it's just for the love of country. And I want to leave, our country better than what I found it. And Weld County is strategic, like you said, in many reasons, but also to push back against this Denver Boulder cabal that's trying to strip away not only our way of life, but also, the things that make our world operate. If you don't have oil and gas, it's not just fuel. It makes almost everything we wear. It transports our food. I mean, if you make the price of energy skyrocket, everything skyrockets. Inflation is basically a byproduct of bad government. And aiding and abetting Denver and trying to make us look more like Denver and all these policies is just going to destroy our way of life. And we should be standing firm against this. This is the time to stand firm and be bold and actually do what we say we do as Republicans, not act like Democrats. And that's exactly what's going on. We're not going to hold Weld County for very long if we just act like Democrats in Denver, Boulder. And in fact, we act to the left of Democrats in Boulder who voted down a new taxing district.
No, I completely agree with you, Lori. Like I said, there's nothing you said today that I disagree with. And normally I disagree with a lot of people because I fight people all the time. And I'm just like, nope, got it, check. I'm like, all right, well, I guess she's not as insane as all these other establishment GOP people say she is. But, we all know that you don't have to convince people like me who work in oil and gas, who are farmers and ranchers out here, right? You don't have to convince me of the policies you're trying to push. But what you're trying to do now is we're getting ready the primaries are coming up. I mean, it's the 25th is the last day to vote here in Weld County. I couldn't stress how important it is for people to listen to these podcasts and to get out there and vote. But what would you like to say to all the people who have walked away from the Republican Party or all the independent voters we have out here in Weld County? What would you say to them? Sell yourself now. what do people need to hear from Lori right now to make sure that they vote for the right person here coming up on the 25th in the primary?
I'm the only commissioner voting for freedom. So if you like freedom, please vote for me, because I actually represent you on all the issues that you should care about, which includes the Constitution, the First Amendment. You know, fighting for freedom is honestly the only reason I run for office, because I see the slide towards big government, crony corporatism, folks trying to really just make our way of life disappear and put you under their full control. That's not why America was founded. You know, if you're a friend of the king, life's good, right? If you're not a friend of the king, you're either dead or a serf. And you know, we've got basically a crony government, right? That's rewarding their friends and punishing their enemies. I'm the only one standing against this. So again, vote for Lori Saine if you want sane government. It's really important. This election is one of the most important. And the last thing I'm going to say is, you can tell a grassroots candidate who's running to support you by the nasty negative mailers, by these big giant mailers they're spending millions of dollars on that say, we're from out of state, right? If you look on there, it's Virginia, it's Washington, D.C. Use that to make your determination. Is that actually a local candidate running to represent you? Or are they down to the will of out of state D.C. interests?
I agree with you. As somebody who works in psychological operations myself, I will tell you is always pay attention to when people start attacking somebody. When someone is being attacked ruthlessly, it's for a reason, because of whatever establishment, whatever Syrian terrorist ISIS militia group I have to deal with, talking crap about their opponents on Twitter, which they actually do. It's kind of funny. Or even locally, when people start getting attacked, that's actually when I pay attention to them more, because I sit there and go, wait, there's something else going on here. And we could see that with how President Donald Trump was given 34 felony counts. Why are they attacking Donald Trump? The guy's a billionaire, doesn't need anyone's money, because he's trying to do the right thing. Right. And I would say that goes, and that's just a very general overview. But for the most part, when a single person is being attacked, I will say, vote for them. Look at Lauren Boebert. Look at Matt Gaetz. Look at Representative Massey. These are people part of the Freedom Caucus in D.C. that are constantly attacked. But if you look at all their bills and everything they try to do in D.C., they're trying to fight against the establishment. And I think that's the type of person that you represent, Lori.
Yeah, they're trying to defend the status quo, and they will keep their power by any means necessary. It's very Machiavellian. And you can see where the Colorado or the Weld GOP has adopted this Saul Alinsky style tactics of trying to attack your opponent. It's basically, they're not much different than Democrats in how they vote right now. If you look across the board of how they voted, it's not much different than the Democrats I dealt with about 10 years ago in the state legislature. So we're moving along that path to command and control, and that doesn't serve anyone. That's only going to serve people that are looking to control government, enrich themselves by government. And overall, that's going to leave less competition, just like you were saying with the oil and gas industry slowly being dismantled. That's going to lead to increasing costs without competition. And it's going to make your life unlivable and unaffordable. And so, if you want to look more like California, please, then vote for my opponent. But if you don't, and if you want to keep Colorado, or at least Weld County, keep Weld County, then vote for me.
Lori, I just want to thank you for coming on the Touches and Tomahawks podcast today. This is actually a really fun discussion for me, because we could talk about all the things that matter in our lives and matter in my life specifically. And I just want to say thanks for coming on the show. Thanks for talking to all the voters today. And I'm 100% sure the second I post this on any Republican forum in the state of Colorado, I'm going to get banned. I'm going to get called a terrorist or whatever else I get called out there. Just for talking to a candidate and having a normal conversation with somebody.
Actually, you're my constituent talking to your representative, and you'll be banned. And
I'm going to get banned. I'm going to get banned for having a normal conversation. Wait, isn't that exactly what the Democrats did to Donald Trump and kicked him off of all these other? Well, weird how that works. Anyway, thanks for coming on the show today, Lori. I hope people go out there and make the right choice in their vote coming up on the 25th.
All right, thank you so much. It was a great time.
All right, and.